A unique housing project provides hope for those trying to find a permanent place to call home.
These cottages are clustered around courtyards to help foster community.
The holidays are a tough time for those who struggle with their mental health. Now, a new program offers a simple way to help.
We're not always going to have a magic wand, but we will always have an open ear.
And happy anniversary to us. After 20 years, we look back at how Seattle Channel started and what we've accomplished. These stories and more next on CityStream. Hello, I'm Dennis Bounds, and welcome to CityStream from the Seattle Channel. We're here in the basement of City Hall to mark an important milestone at Seattle's award-winning government access TV station. Much more on that just ahead. If you visited Magnuson Park, you know it's a cherished spot known for its beaches, sports fields, pea patch, and the city's largest dog park. And soon, some people will also call the park home. Producers David Albright and Enrique Cerna explain.
This site, just off Northeast 65th Street, is well on its way to becoming a cluster of cottage homes reserved for people exiting homelessness.
So the Sandpoint Cottage community is a cluster of 22 cottages around a couple courtyards. We have a commons building that is basically a medium-sized home that has a large kitchen, a large living space for people to gather, dining area. These cottages are clustered around courtyards to help foster community in this very beautiful park-like setting.
But the whole idea is to have, your front porch, to be able to sit out in your front porch and say hi to your neighbors.
We developed the idea a few years ago, and I put money in the state budget to actually get it going and pay for the construction. The idea was to provide low-cost cottage housing with full utilities. This is a big step up from tiny home villages. I strongly support tiny homes, but there's no utilities.
Cottage communities are a rare housing type in Seattle. And besides a few historic examples that were built before zoning laws were created in 1923, very few of them exist. But architect Karen DeLucas specializes in these unique homes, having trained under Ross Chapin, the architect who literally wrote the book on what he calls pocket neighborhoods.
15 years of doing this type of cottage development gave me the experience needed to work on this project, because it's not just about the cottages, it's about how you design for community. What's really exciting about the cottage community, especially for people experiencing homelessness, is that they will have kind of shared resources. They'll be able to meet people that have had similar experiences and kind of grow together. The design of the cottage was very intentional with the pitched roof. It's a very sheltering gable, almost iconic form. And that was the one thing that everybody recognizes as a home.
To tell the story of how this cottage community came to be, we have to go back to 1970, when Naval Air Station Sandpoint was decommissioned and much of its land transferred to the city of Seattle. Most of the land was used to create Magnuson Park, but 18 acres were set aside for affordable housing. The biggest project on the site was completed in 2017, when Building 9, the barracks, were converted into 148 affordable apartments. In 2019, the Low Income Housing Institute, or LIHI, was chosen as the developer for the site where the cottages now sit. LIHI brought in Karen DeLucas, and together they took their design proposals to the surrounding community.
The community said, this is really nice design. This fits into the community. So as a result of that, we then got their support from the community to then go to the City Council.
The City Council approved the project. LIHI secured funding from a number of sources, including the Washington State Department of Commerce. The project then moved on to the construction phase, using an innovative construction technique that helped speed the project along and also keep costs down.
The cottages were all constructed off-site in modular units, the living room and bathroom and kitchen modular, the roof modular, and the bedroom modular. Having these as modular allowed us to be kind of ahead of the game once foundations were poured and set and all the site work was done.
So after many years of work and much collaboration between city, state, private, and nonprofit partners, these 22 cottages will welcome residents in early 2023. Christina Comer is the program manager at Lehigh, who will help oversee the process of getting residents into their new homes.
It's very exciting to bring someone into a space that they have not had access to before. Just alone having shelter and electricity and a place to put your item gives people so much space to do other things that they want to do and need to do. It kind of takes a village to run a village. It takes a village to support and care for a family, and so it would be nice to be able to have the space to do that here.
This cottage village, we hope, is a model for other cottage villages to be built across the state. And so this particular one is focused on formerly homeless people, but across the state where there's more available vacant land, we need to promote this as a way of providing starter homes for first-time home buyers, student housing, farm worker housing. These are the kinds of homes that can be a home for all people.
Well, I must say it's been a dream project for me. You know, this is something that is unique in Seattle. I wish that we were building more cottage developments. We should be, looking at kind of the smaller footprint. There's a big step going from a tent to a tiny house, and then there's even a bigger step from going to the tiny houses to this cottage development. But what's something that's similar between the tiny house villages and the cottages is, again, this sense of community. Not just giving them a home, but giving them that community.
The cottages are intended to be permanent homes for their residents. And Lehigh is working with 2 job training organizations, the Seattle Conservation Corps and Fair Start, to refer the candidates who will soon call this unique community home. Next on CityStream, the holiday season can heighten our anxiety, but a new program makes it easy to find help. Now that the holiday season is here, it can be a time of great joy for some, stressful for others. Discussing mental health is never easy, but a new program makes it simpler to find help. Brian Callanan has more on the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline.
Where are they located?
Carter Gears knows when people need help.
Do they know about the resources in their area?
He coaches call takers who are talking to people in the midst of a mental health crisis. It's something he understands because, like many of us, he's had that experience too.
I have struggled with suicidal ideation in the past, and I've been in situations where I felt hopeless.
Some history of detoxes.
The calls are not easy to handle.
We get people coming in that are going through the worst of the worst.
Are you feeling like killing yourself today?
Yeah.
Why are you feeling that way?
But now, Carter and dozens of other specialists, plus those calling in, have some newfound support.
Crisis Connections, this is Holly.
Crisis Connections is one of 3 agencies across Washington state now answering calls in 250 languages as part of the nationwide 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, launched in July of this year.
This can transform how we support people in crisis.
988 is a free confidential line you can call or text for you or for a friend, a replacement for local or national suicide hotlines and other helplines. And our state has helped answer the call by providing some much-needed funding for the program.
I've worked on a number of suicide prevention bills, and this one will make the greatest difference to save lives.
With the 2021 passage of House Bill 1477, lawmakers imposed a tax on phone and internet lines to start building out an integrated mental health crisis system, a system that Rochelle Williams wants to make as inclusive as possible.
You know, 2 ears, 1 heart, natives helping natives.
Williams, an enrolled member of the Hatteras First Nation and also a Tulalip tribal descendant, is the tribal program manager at Volunteers of America Western Washington in Everett, which serves as another of our state's 988 call centers.
Let me get you in the right place. Hold on.
Press 4 after you call 988 and you'll be connected to the Native and Strong Crisis Lifeline, our country's first helpline made for and run by Native and Indigenous people.
I know that there's a lot of mistrust in our communities. I know that a lot of Native people are not trusting of a lot of different systems. We also believe sometimes that tribal programs fail quite often. The reason for this, I think, is because we're missing that cultural connection. We're missing being connected to our own people.
A team of 16 Native people will run Native and Strong to try to respond to a sobering statistic. American Indian and Alaska Native people have the highest rate of suicide of any ethnicity in the U.S.
What we're hoping is to save a lot of lives. Even with all of this work, if we saved one, if somebody called and that saved their life, that's what we want.
What insurance?
988 program administrators also want to push back on some misinformation. They are not geolocating your phone when you call in.
We do not have the ability to trace, nor are we interested in tracing anyone's call.
Michelle McDaniel is CEO of Crisis Connections and says only when someone calls 988 with an urgent, life-threatening emergency, an overdose of pills, for example, would an active rescue protocol go into effect. In that situation, if possible, a 988 operator would be authorized to track a caller's number through caller ID.
And then we would contact 911 and say, hey, here's the situation. We are on a call with someone who reached out to us. They have taken pills. We're worried about them.
Emergency responders would handle things from there. But Williams says active rescues occur with only 0.08% of the calls that come into 988. Most people are able to simply talk out their issues with a call specialist.
80% of the calls that we receive on 988 are resolved at that crisis line level.
But that leaves 20% of cases not resolved. And that's what Michelle Roberts is working to change.
Long-term, our goal is to build out the rest of the crisis support system.
Roberts is the Assistant Secretary for Prevention and Community Health at the Washington State Department of Health and says beyond 24/7 call centers, people in crisis need 2 main things.
Someone to come and somewhere to go.
Someone to come would mean a non-police response team for people in crisis. And somewhere to go would be a walk-in mental health receiving facility to replace overburdened emergency rooms.
If you have a crisis and you call 988, you can get a next day appointment with a counselor if you need one to get support in person.
That part of the system is set to launch in January of 2023 as mental health care needs continue to grow around our state.
I just can't do it anymore. I mean, I know that's what everybody says, but it's hard to explain.
Mental health crises are hard to explain and hard to respond to. But with a new inclusive 988 system and more resources coming to our state, the hope is to erase any stigma around seeking out help and make those crises a lot easier to bear.
We're going to keep building and improving what we're doing so that we can continue to support people. We're not always going to have a magic wand, but we will always have an open ear.
No mental health crisis is too large or too small. If you need to make that call, simply dial 988. As auto manufacturers around the world race to create electric vehicles, did you know Seattle City Light delved into the use of EVs back in the 1960s? Photo archivist Julie Irick from the Seattle Municipal Archives takes a look.
As national concern began to develop about fossil fuels, pollution, and other environmental issues, Seattle City Light began some early experimentation with electric vehicles. Unveiled by Seafair Queen Linda Andrews on February 7, 1968, City Light introduced the Electruck, which was an experimental electric-powered utility truck. It was powered by 2 1,500-pound lead-acid batteries and used a special recharger which was attached to the vehicle. The Electruck was used effectively at New Halem, and the batteries kept the truck operating the entire workday and charged at night. On an experimental trip between New Halem and Gorge Dam, the truck pulled a full trailer without difficulty and reached an uphill speed of 18 miles per hour. The average fuel requirement was 1.3 kilowatt hours per mile. A sign painted on the truck read, "Your bright new future is all electric." Research and development continued into the 1970s. City Light photos from 1973 show a prototype electric car made from a modified AMC Gremlin as it's plugged into an electropark, a parking meter equipped with an electric charging outlet. The Lighting Department's May 1973 newsletter says of the electropark, "It's a new concept that could alter the function of the parking meter and pave the way for future use of short-range, non-polluting, electric-powered automobiles on Seattle streets." One big drawback to the electric automobile is that it needs to be recharged frequently. Electropark would ease the problem in part by providing electric outlets on each parking meter. For 25 cents per hour, a motorist could park and charge their electric vehicle. Then in 1976, City Light developed an experimental electric mobility system called the RT1, which could travel up to 75 miles on one charge of its 8 6-volt batteries. The 4-passenger car was only 7 feet long and 5 feet wide and took up 1/5 the parking space of a typical car from that period. The RT1 was conceptualized as part of a downtown restricted transportation zone from which most internal combustion vehicles would be barred. City Light envisioned this zone full of electric cars like the RT1 as a step toward eliminating transportation pollution in the urban core. We know from the 1976 annual report that the prototype was delivered. However, what became of the experiment remains unknown.
Next on CityStream, the spotlight shines on the Seattle Channel as we celebrate an important anniversary. CityStream returns from the Seattle Channel, where we are celebrating our 20th anniversary. Years ago, this was first known as Seattle Municipal Cable TV 28. It was later renamed TVC. Then in 2002, Seattle Channel was born. Since then, our programming choices grew, as did our online and social media presence. Now Seattle Channel is recognized as one of the nation's finest government access TV stations. Producers Randy Eng and Addie Pratt have more.
In the beginning, the Seattle Channel was known as Seattle Municipal Cable TV 28. Run by the Seattle Public Library, its placement in the cable menu made it hard to find.
People kind of think of you as this government channel in the 20s and just skip right over you.
In theory, when you're not grouped right next to the commercial stations, you probably don't get as many viewers as people are channel surfing.
Channel 28 was not ideal, but it's what we got, and it was kind of hard to negotiate a change.
Hard to find and hard to watch, as the programming at the time was a little dry.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, good.
Basically, it was meetings, just about all meetings.
Just covering a meeting almost felt like punishment for some people.
Council come to order. There was a guy named Peter Watson, and he would go up to the council meetings and record them all by himself and play them back on a very boring municipal cable channel.
Just very rudimentary programming about anything. I mean, it was just so basic that there wasn't much information going out.
A lot of people like to recycle.
We're going to be doing a main flushing here.
I guess that's about it then.
Hard to find, hard to watch, and, well, a hard place to work. Located in the municipal building, the equipment was outdated and the facilities lacking.
The basement in the municipal building was
a dungeon-like basement.
I think we had 10 feet of space and maybe 20 lengthwise.
We would go upstairs to the lobby and just pick up a couple like fake plants and just put them behind the chairs.
I mean, we were dealing with this rudimentary studio.
Truly a basement. You didn't really feel great about where you were and what you were doing.
A shift came in 1997, and it started with a name change. Seattle Municipal Cable Channel 28 became TVC.
I think I picked TVC. I thought that was really clever.
As in TVSEA for Seattle, and nobody could figure that out.
You're seeing the city of Seattle, that we're on the sea, at least on the sound, and like CTV, but people obviously thought it was a maritime channel.
All kidding aside, TVC's programming was no joke.
Is that fair criticism?
No, I don't think it's fair criticism.
Because
it showed more content, more meetings, and much more locally produced programming.
I think the bread and butter of it was meetings, and then we started to expand, like, what else can we do that would be interesting to viewers?
This is the story of the first Black woman elevator inspector.
Most of the Denny party relocated to the eastern shores of Elliott Bay the following spring. For History Link, I'm Walt Crowley, with special thanks to TVC.
To the mayor and the city council's credit, I feel like they left me alone. In addition to the meetings, we could do pretty much anything else that had some kind of tangential relationship to the city's mandates. The only time they got upset, I think, was really during the WTO riots.
My first day. So I started at TVC on November 30th, 1999. The riots broke out that day. And it's like, can you get your camera and document the WTO riots? It's like, what? I'm getting tear gassed. You know, that's my first day on the job, and it's like, Ralph, welcome to TVC.
We came back to the station and we aired all the footage that we took as if it were a meeting because we thought it was so momentous. Not editorializing it, just here's what we saw today.
The whole world is watching! The whole world is watching!
The riots gave the world its first real chance to watch TVC. The next one came about a year later.
The American Diabetes Association.
I was switching the cameras for the city council meeting, and it was like, hey, it looks like the cameras are shaking up there, and the council members are diving under the table. And at that point, it's like, what is this? And it turns out to be the Nisqually earthquake.
I didn't even think it was an earthquake. I thought they were just doing some blasting for the new municipal building. We had city council members saying, this meeting's adjourned.
Meeting's adjourned.
Are you adjourning the meeting tonight?
Yes, it's adjourned. Peter's adjourned it. Okay. Peter's adjourned the meeting.
Thank you.
Ralph had the good idea of duplicating the footage and taking it to all the stations, and it aired all across the world.
Despite the attention, city leadership thought the channel was underutilized and wanted even more citizen engagement, especially from an untapped internet audience. Mayor Paul Schell and Councilmember Jim Compton formed a commission, and 6 months later, the next mayor, Greg Nichols, made an announcement.
This fall, we're going to combine television and web programming and launch an MSNBC-style service.
You're watching the Seattle Channel.
That service became the Seattle Channel, which included a revamped website.
Once we got the site up and operating, and there were videos up that people could access, and like 1 million page views a month, okay, we're on to something here.
As soon as things were available online, you know, the streaming piece of it, that is where people really started to tap in and see the stuff that we were doing.
That stuff became the foundation of Seattle Channel's programming. Shows like City A Go-Go, which would eventually become Art Zone.
There's a lot of things that matter in this city, and certainly one of them is art and culture, and the Seattle Channel has never wavered in that support.
City Inside Out launched that same year.
Welcome to City Inside Out, your place for news. We had politicians who kept wanting to be on our program.
The claim now is that it's too many rubber stampers. That the board
I don't think that's true. The Monorail Authority is a public body. It has to be responsible to the larger public.
The best thing for a politician is to be in a debate and nail it. And so our program ended up being the kind of forum that you could go on, and if you were good at that, hit a home run.
Hello, I'm Mike James. Welcome to CityStream. This is our first program, so let's take a moment to talk about what we are.
CityStream made its debut in 2003.
You've got the city, you've got the arts, you've got feature stories.
It's Tasha and Joey, the incredible tree-climbing dogs.
Lighter, newsy kind of things.
And Booklust took off in 2004.
They were trying to do more arts on the channel, and I thought, oh my gosh.
Seattle's a town of readers, and so doing something that was connected to the library just seemed like a natural thing.
It's difficult to write. Yes.
She wasn't just your ordinary librarian. She had her own action figure doll.
These are old shows I did. You probably don't even have tapes anymore, do you? This little engine that could, still in the basement of City Hall, but it's impressive what the channel did early on, what the channel still does. That was our backdrop. I'm proud of that backdrop.
Over the years, Seattle Channel became a window into government and a voice for the region, ready for whatever the future may bring.
My hairstyle has changed, my skin has changed, I've aged. It's the most amazing gift that I have been given. I'm a lucky cat.
We all felt we were building something.
I did the best work of my career actually at the Seattle Channel because we were given sufficient time to do it. We had the support to do our best work.
I loved it. I loved the work, and I'm glad that it only flourished more.
It was just exciting to start in on some new things and work together to build something we were all proud of.
It was a great thing to lift what had been seen as something that people would never pay attention to and lift it up into the public consciousness and make it a useful tool for citizens.
Happy 20th anniversary, Seattle Channel. That wraps up this episode of CityStream. If you'd like to watch more of our impressive programming, visit our website, seattle.gov, and click on Feature Shows. I'm Dennis Bounds. Thank you for watching now and for the last 20 years.